Good morning, good afternoon, and evening, baseball fans. This is the Power Rankings panel. We are convened here yet again on a Monday morning to talk about MLB action across the league. I'm joined by the three smartest baseball guys I know, Klemmer Castellani, Eric Hubbs, and Chris Klemmer. Boys, what's going on?
Howdy. Nice weekend series for the Mets there. So, I mean, they played the worst team in baseball and barely won 2 games, but I guess I'll take the W's. It's ugly.
Frank thinks the world's ending. You guys won the game, and
you don't want to win like that. This lineup has some major issues. The back end of that lineup is rough. We need a batter too. I mean, it's going to be a struggle.
I thought something interesting today from the group chat. Seems like Yankees fans are getting some respect early in the season, Hubbs.
How about that? Garrett Cole just turns into a cyborg again, and we got all the respect back on our side. I like it.
And Castellani, can you just at least justify your fake Tigers rankings? That's like the most startling thing I've ever seen.
You understand? I have this entire thing like written down on a million different spreadsheets. For people who don't know, back when I was in college, I created a fake Tigers roster that I've slowly been updating like throughout the last 7 years, and I released it to the public today, complete with like what they're making, how many years they've been in the league. Explanation: there's a reason I dropped out of college. I mean, I think it's probably pretty clear. Pointing out that I've spent 7 years doing that. But probably when we get to October, maybe even earlier, I have the whole playoffs box scores on my computer somewhere. So
I have a question about it, Chris. Like, I know Jose Offerman is on that team.
It's a different Jose Offerman, and it's a different Francisco Rodriguez.
Okay.
Though bizarrely, our Francisco Rodriguez models his game after the original Francisco Rodriguez. He throws hard and he's got a wicked changeup.
And to be clear, you did this alone.
Yeah, not getting paid. I did this alone in a college dorm room at Central Michigan University.
You needed to make that clear, Carl?
Yeah, it wasn't like a group of guys doing it wasn't a group of guys doing a competition or something to like keep track of. This is just Castellani in the depths of the spreadsheets, like just feeling out his organization. That's amazing stuff. And the last amazing note before we get to this power ranking, I spent the weekend in Starkville, Mississippi with a group of guys that I met in Omaha 2 years ago through Brandon Walker. And these are the guys that built the Dude, which is Mississippi State Stadium. It's the #1 college baseball facility in the country by a mile. The difference between them and number 2 is like the difference between 2 and number fucking 200 on that list. And they set the college baseball attendance record this weekend with almost 44,000 at home. There's a great video we're going to put together on the best seat in the house.
See, you're a record breaker, by the way.
Well, I'm happy to be a part of it. It was a really cool project to be a part of, and I know we're here to talk about Major League Baseball, but my passion is with the game of baseball. So I want to take a shout out real quick to Brandon and the people in Mississippi, Michael Berner, obviously Fireball J. This makes no sense to anyone right now, but the content will dictate the story. It was a great time, so I want to thank those guys very much. You guys are ready to talk some panel. While I'm out fucking around college baseball, the boys are deep in it. So let's just kick it off. You guys went through the format last week. It's a 1 through 9. We have a batting order so that we can kind of walk through things. If someone gets out of line, we have no problem reeling the other guy back in. Our batting order this week is reversed from last week. It is age before beauty. No, my friends, it's pearls before swine. We're going Castellani 1, Hubbs 2, the editor-in-chief. I'm going to hit 3, and then big swinging dick Chris Klemmer's hitting 4. Can't wait to see what you do with the 4 and the 8 spots. With that said, boys, thank you for this monologue. Let's kick it off. Castellani, take me away. Who's number 1?
Number 1, I think, is probably pretty obvious to all of us. They did lose their first series of the year, but a team that got off to a historically hot start. Maybe a few cracks in the armor with an injury here or there, but it's the Tampa Bay Rays. Played at an extremely high level. You know, it's been talked about, the not so much controversy, but just the discussion about the teams that they've played, whether or not this is for real. This team is for real. Like, they're not going to win 120 games. They're going to be around all season. I think people are quick to forget that last year's team, which had a crazy number of injuries, still made the postseason. They got a lot of guys back. It's a fun lineup, and I think that 1-2 punch of a Rosarena and Wander Franco is going to give people nightmares. So with the way they've started, pounded Alek Manoah on Sunday as well. You got to put them in the driver's seat right now with how they've played.
Yeah, Jeffrey Springs being out for 2 months is not going to help them. But here comes Taj Bradley. So, sure. Here, of course, you have a number 1 with top 20 prospect in all baseball ready to go. I'm just going to point this out because they're probably not going to be talked about on these rankings. But they did sweep the Boston Red Sox. The Rays, they did lose to the Jays, as you said. They swept the Boston Red Sox. Chris Sale just has absolutely nothing left in the tank. And
it's so flat.
Very funny to watch.
Carl and I were watching him at Comerica when he pitched the home opener. Yeah, I mean, like, it's noticeably different compared to.
He had no chance against the Rays. I think the Rays will regress offensively. Their pitching will remain very, very good throughout the year, and that is why they're real. Like, yeah, they played shit teams to open here, but that pitching staff is going to shut down teams all year long. Will they be able to string together those timely hits? And I don't think the homers are going to stay, but they're very good.
By the way, the Red
for
Sox
sure.
will be paying Chris Sale $27 million next year. So just a reminder there.
Who saw the clip, though? Chris Sale, somebody named him like top pitcher in the AL East. I can't remember who did that, but I know he had a pitch this year earlier where a batter looked back at the catcher and said, "What the fuck was that?" And there is a viral clip of him where he's got like 2 feet of break on a pitch no one knows yet. So if Chris Sale's in the early stage of getting to the fourth quarter of his career as the crafty lefty vet, there's the positive spin on it. He is trash.
That's
though.
funny,
He's gonna get lit
Carl,
up for like the next
because I think a
15
lot of
starts.
Red Sox fans are looking behind them saying, "What the fuck was that?" Every time he pitches, he's got an ERA of 11. He's horrible. I mean, now can he be better? Ideally, if you're, for the Red Sox sake, but right now he is atrocious, making a lot of money for a team that really needs some starting pitching help there. So.
One quick thing before we move on. You know what a fun game to play is will Chris Sale's season ERA go down in the start? It's just a fun game. It's a fun game to look on. I believe going into his last start, he had a few that dropped it, and then we went right back up. So
there's no reason that shouldn't be a prop every time he starts.
Okay, sorry, I misspoke. So obviously 21 ERA to start, then 11.25, so we dropped significantly against the Tigers, and then we stayed 11.25 after the Rays. So we didn't drop, we didn't go up. We're still at 11.25.
That third game was 11.25.
So who knows what's going to happen this week?
Okay, Rays firmly in here at number 1. Hubs, you got great bat-to-ball contact skills here in the 2 spot.
Yeah, going to do them some justice this week. We kind of shafted them a bit, and we kind of didn't know how that Sunday Night Baseball game was going to go. The Braves are my number 2 team. Their offense is ridiculous. Anyone want to guess how many 3-hit games Ronald Acuna had this week?
God. I don't.
He had 3 3-hit games, and then he had a multi-hit today. He had 2 as well. I mean, that's an absurd week. He is firmly my best hitter of the week. Their offense is absurd. It is not any it's an offense that a pitcher should fake an injury for if you're going to go up against them. The pitching still kind of a mixed bag in terms of how much I trust them moving forward. But as a whole, they answered. Did they not lose this week? I don't believe they lost this week. Yeah, so, and then obviously a very impressive end of the week last week that we kind of didn't account for because we recorded beforehand. They're my firmly number 2
Yeah,
team.
they were firmly my number 2 as well. And I know that there was some discussion about their roster construction coming into the year with the guys they've lost over the last several years. Obviously, you're replacing Dansby. I just think they're becoming one of those assembly line teams, like the Dodgers or like the Astros, where it doesn't really matter who they lose. They're going to have their system. They're going to fill spots, and they will spend some money when the time is right as well. They are bizarrely underappreciated, I feel like, for a team that has been in the playoffs 5 years in a row. This is not meant to be insulting towards them, but I rarely find the the Braves to be I gotta watch the Braves tonight. The way that I do but who gives a shit? They're winning 190 something games a year. They won the World Series a few years back, and right now they're off to a hot start. So yeah,
I got to throw some cold water on the Braves. They're my number 2 team. Absolutely, Hubs, you're absolutely right. One thing, though, is the idea that they are an assembly line team. I think that assembly line is starting to run out of gas. Their minor league system is routinely ranked in the bottom 5 now. There's only so many. Eventually, I think you're right. But the good news is, for them, their guys are so young. They don't need those other guys to fill those spots anytime soon. But you do wonder if they're starting to run out of those top shelf prospects.
Right, but it's not really a problem because they're all really good and up in the majors right now, and like you said, have years to go. But yeah, I agree. Their system isn't they don't have more guys coming here seemingly, but they're all here and they're all problems.
I think 1 and 2 here this week is actually pretty convincing. I think now we're going to get into 3 to 6.
Yep.
Take or leave. For me, the team that separated a little bit here is the Blue Jays, just because they take the Rays series. I know, but there's some splits. There's not I got a smirk from Hub, so I'm going to give you a chance if you want to push this one.
I don't think they're the number 3 team. I don't to disagree with you, Carl. I have them at 7. That pitching staff is not worthy of 3 to me. Their offense is ridiculous, but I don't like that pitch. After Gosman, I don't trust any of those people. Manoah's
still he's gonna adapt to the pitch clock.
Is he? Is he gonna lose 30 pounds tomorrow? Is he going?
It's an attitude thing. I think it's an attitude thing. And I think you can look at other teams that are in the same mix, and I think for purposes of coming out of week 3, like the Blue Jays earned it. We were 13-0, come in there, take the first 2, had a chance to sweep. They did lose 8-1, but again, we're talking about the Rays as the best team in baseball. So it's like, are they the 3rd best team in baseball? Are we making power rankings based off the performance this week? And they had 2 series victories, one of which is against, the team that while there's other teams that have split, other teams that, didn't win 2 series. So I know I'm on the fence. Listen, this could very easily be next week where we're talking about the Blue Jays in the 9 spot. I'm not ready to write off Alek Manoah either, and I think that is a little unfair. I mean, yeah, he's a bigger guy at the same time, though. Like, he's legit. He's in the clear top class of, like, stuff and attitude. So don't be writing his ass off just because he's a big guy.
I didn't see him writing it off, but so far –
you look good, though, with your prediction. That's kind of funny. I mean, he went in on you a little bit for you saying
the Blue Jays podcast that I've been going back and forth with called him their number 5 pitcher today. So that's more insulting than anything I said.
There's another team here, too, that I gave a lot of credit to last week. I'll let someone talk about him this week. But I'm excited to get to the 8-9 spots when we were doing this preview because I think there's just a very meaty discussion about, like, the competitive balance that we're starting to see. Because I honestly feel like there's so many teams that are going to run into this rankings this year that we're going to be celebrating because they're playing well.
Does anyone else like disagree with Blue Jays?
I didn't have them that high. And this is coming from somebody who picked the Blue Jays to win the East and still think that they might. But I'm with you. The reason I dropped them down a little bit is the pitching staff has been frustrating and inconsistent. We don't know what you're going to get out of Barrios. Well, you might know what you're getting out of Barrios, which is not very good. Kikuchi's inconsistent as hell. I ultimately think Bassett Manoah will be fine. But the reason I dropped him down just a little bit below where Carl had him was they should have lost 2 out of 3 against Detroit. In fact, it was the fact that we're trying to build a bullpen with scotch tape, and I mean it's just the bullpen's completely falling apart. If not for that, they would have won 2 out of 3 in Rogers Center. But the lineup is, if in the top 3, scariest in the sport. I mean, top to bottom.
Well, let me ask you guys this. I'm sorry, but this is why I want a panel. Because I don't, if the panel's coming back and saying, hey, guys, like, the Blue Jays are good up there, but if we want to put them a little bit later because there's another team that us as a panel of experts doing our best job professionally to put the best 1 through 9 together on Monday morning, like, that's where I'm with the Blue Jays. If respectfully we're saying, hey, Carl, nice shot at the Blue Jays at 3, but we would feel better with this team at 3.
I'm going to defend Carl here a little bit. So the Blue Jays, maybe it's a little higher than I have them too, but you know what? They beat the Rays 2 out of 3. The Rays went in there 13. They were the sensation of baseball. The Blue Jays are good. I mean, this is a team that's going to make the playoffs probably. Are they going to win the division? I don't think so, but they're very good, and they beat the best team that's going. I don't know. It's week 2. I have no problem with the Blue Jays number 3 here.
How's that work? Do they stay?
Will they be like number 3 all year, or are you talking about for this week?
No. I mean, Carl, like.
Well, I guess now it goes to Klemmer. Klemmer's making the 4th pick. If you feel comfortable and you have a pick that you say, hey, why don't we do this with them 3, and I'll move them over to Blue Jays 4, I'm totally cool with that. Again, this isn't about, like, I don't want to make this about, like, I want them here. What I want is come Monday morning, when people see that list, they know that we're sitting here actually trying hard to make sure it's like a real thing. I don't like the idea that people are like, just think I'm fucking spitballing to talk shit.
No, I know for a fact.
By the way, Padres fans, we're going to get to you
people
later.
Are going to respect this list. I don't expect to have anybody say otherwise. So this is a list that will be honored and treated with their utmost confidence. My number 4 is tough here. So it's between 2 teams for me, and this hopefully will prove that I'm not biased, but my number 4 team is going to be the New York Yankees. Yeah. Look, Garrett Cole is an ace. It's about time. I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. We kind of talked about this in the group chat a little bit. He could easily win Cy Young this year. Would not surprise me at all. I think the Yankees have some problems for sure. They have some injuries, especially on the pitching staff side. But you know what? And now Stanton's hurt. But the Yankees have been playing really well. I mean, look, regular season Yankees, they're good every year. They go to the playoffs, they lose in the first, second round. We know all that's going to happen. But at least in the regular season, you got to tip your cap to the Yankees.
And one thing they seem to do in the regular season a lot, and I don't know when this started. I remember 2019; it was crazy. And you got to give Boone and you got to give Cashman a lot of credit for this, having some depth there. It seems like they've done a really good job of having to deal with a lot of injuries over the last several years.
Well, they have no choice because there's
exactly.
always
That's what I was thinking. They have to be one of the most injured teams in the sport. Stanton obviously was at 38% of the games he's played since 2019. He's been on the IL, which just sucks. But they're I like their starting staff. I like the fact that their pitching staff as a whole has battled through these injuries. And that was watching that today, guys. That was the most casual 9-inning complete game I've seen in a long time. Like by the time it got to the 6th, just like maybe it was the pitch clock that just made it move so economically. But he's the best pitcher in baseball right now. And yeah, in a bizarre way, in a bizarre twist of fate, has somewhat become a little bit underappreciated because he's held under such a microscope. Like he's making 33 starts a year, pitching 200 innings and striking out 250. Like he's earning every cent of that contract. Now, of course, it'll ultimately be judged based on whether or not he wins a World Series there, but he's been good in the postseason.
Yeah, 3 things. 1, pitch clock Cole has clearly just rejuvenated him. Like he just doesn't think out there anymore. The little things aren't bothering him as much as they used to be because he's just forced to pick up. He gets the pitch and he just throws it. He's elevating the fastball a ton, which is his bread and butter and what he wasn't doing when he was struggling. Cole's been magnificent. You just can't really pitch better than what he did today. Like you said, Chris, it was seemingly effortless what he was doing out there. It's great to see. Great to see he's happy. And yes, he is underappreciated, and more people should appreciate him. And he is your front runner for the Cy Young. 2, Giancarlo Stanton got hurt jogging into second base, decelerating into second base. He had a grade 2 hamstring. He'll be out 6 weeks. That's not good, especially because he was swinging the bat really well. They need Bade.
Push back into the hubs for a second. The guy's had an on-base percentage under 300 this year and last year, hitting the ball well. Like, his bar now is so low. If he just wakes up in the morning, people applaud him. The Giancarlo Stanton, people are so happy he can do anything. He's like a 2-year-old. He goes to the bathroom and we all get excited.
I mean, he entered today with 854 OPS with 4 homers and 11 RBIs. I consider that swinging the bat pretty good.
296, I think is what it is. That's horrible.
Yeah,
but you're just picking one stat out of.
But he's
a power hitter.
Kind of been like that though.
Hey, Dave Kingman was a great player and lived on a houseboat in Belmont Harbor when he played for the Cubs. I always respected Dave Kingman for that. And he's got the great quote, "You guys aren't paying me to slide. You guys are paying me to hit home runs."
That's a good fact.
What's his weighted runs created
plus?
Last thing with the weighted runs created plus is positive. His weighted runs created plus is above 100. Then I think it's safe to say he's okay. But the point, though, Hubs, is he should be better.
Sure. I mean, he just needs – it's so frustrating that every year it's the same shit. It's a 6-week injury. And honestly, I guess you tell me he only misses 6 weeks and then he's good the rest of the way, I take that in a heartbeat. I just don't know if that's going to be the case. The fact, to say it'll only be 1 injury this year, it's exhausting when this type of shit happens. Like you see Peraza gets called up and you're like excited because he's one of our top prospects. Someone went down and stands on the lineup and then you find out it's a grade 2, which isn't great. They need Bader back. He'll be back in 2 weeks. That'll be a big help, at least with defense. The third thing I was going to say, their closer situation is a big problem right now. Clay Holmes is not trustworthy. I like Michael King a ton, and maybe he becomes the guy. Ron Marinaccio is another guy who could step up. Loaiza's out right now. He's another guy. But Clay Holmes has been pretty shaky here since the second half of last year into this year. Not very trustworthy. I was actually at the game that he blew against the Twins. That was terrible to watch. So, that's why the Yankees at 4 feels right and not like 2 or 3 because I just don't know what's going on in that closer situation, and that's a big deal. But everything, Cole being great, Nestor, fantastic as well. They're going to get a little healthier very soon with Rodon and Sevy. They're both on the up and up with the injury track here, but that closer situation is a big deal, and it needs to get solved quickly.
I have a scenario for you, Hubs, and I want to know if you'll approve of it. Yankees need a reliever at the deadline. They trade for Aroldis Chapman to be their closer. You take him back?
No, it's not happening, especially with the way it ended, where he just left the team at the end of the year. Think they're done with him. My pick for because he will be out. When he signed with the Royals, it was like, okay, so he will be traded at the deadline, especially if he looks like this, because he looks excellent right now. I don't see. I feel like the Mets are going to be all over him, especially if Edwin Diaz doesn't appear to be. I think there's a small chance right now he comes back, but I don't know if Robertson lasts the whole year. I could see them being very in on Aroldis Chapman needing like a legit closer or whatever, especially if he looks the way he does. I think the ship has sailed with the Yankees and how it ended and the way he just literally left the team. You can't bring a guy back like that. I do think they'll be in on a reliever, especially if some of these guys are hurt, don't come back necessarily. But
I
it's
would
not
be
going to
very
be.
disappointed if the Mets got Chapman. I'll put it that way.
But you can see it, right?
I don't know. I hope not. Maybe I'm blinded by I just don't want a person like that in the clubhouse. But
No, I mean, no, you should.
I mean, Steve Cohn's. Never mind. I'm not doing this. I have a lot of respect for the Mets, and actually, as I'm just sitting here and we're going through this stuff, guys, I'm delighted. This is great banner. And Hubs, your insight on the Yankees stuff and Castellani asking these questions is I'm like a little kid. I'm very much enjoying myself. Chris, do you mind giving me the 15?
I got you, man. Yeah. So there was a few that I was going back and forth with that have been maybe not shocking, but somewhat of a surprise out of the gate, and I put one ahead of the other. I'm going with the Minnesota Twins in the 5 spot because I think Minnesota what's it been? They haven't won a playoff game since 2002. My biggest concern with them has always been throughout a regular season, they have a lineup that can outslug you when you get to the postseason. They've never really had a starting staff that's been able to, in a 5-game series, really even compete with the likes of the Yankees or whoever they've played. Usually it's the Yankees. The way that this season has started for them and the way that I see Sonny Gray, Pablo Lopez, and Joe Ryan pitching, I see a legitimate top 3 in that rotation, and for the first time in a while, I'm like, okay, maybe this could be the Twins team. They played the Yankees tough this series. They won 2 out of 4. The one of them that they lost, Cole wasn't. He could have pitched 100 innings. He wasn't giving up any runs today. But they played him close. It seems like Correa's getting his bat going a little bit again now. So they've been a very impressive team in the Central for me, even with some of the issues or question marks I had about the team coming into the year. They're in stable condition right now.
Yeah, one thing I really like about the Twins is the White Sox, oddly enough. The White Sox are just running around with, poop all over their hands. They're a mess. Yeah. I mean, they can't do anything right. And you got to wonder, is this now a 2-team race? I know it's early, but is this a 2-team race in the Central? And if the Twins are going to play, the Twins were playing pretty competitively with, maybe not today with the Yankees, but even so, they held them 2 runs. The Yankees are a really good team.
Yeah, no, Lopez pitched well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Lopez is he's a solid pitcher for the Marlins last year. He's obviously off to a great start this year with Minnesota. I don't know. I have the Twins in my top 9. I don't have them quite this high, but I have no problem with them going here, though.
Yeah, no.
I had the Twins at 5.
Yeah, no, they've been impressive to me so far this season. I'm with you on the Central race because White Sox to me were one of those teams where it was imperative that they got off to just at least a stable start. It's the old adage, man. You can't win the pennant in April. You could lose it. I could see them being one of those teams that's like 10-20 and just never, because they're a momentum-based team. It seems like when they're rolling, they're really rolling. When they're struggling, they're really struggling. Their pitching staff has completely outside of Cease, who he wasn't great today, but crumbled.
Yeah, the Twins after Thursday. Felt like a miracle the Yankees were to split with them after, they scored 9 runs in the first thing. Like, I get it. You're letting out your frustration over the last 2 decades of just getting murdered by us. Let's relax a little bit. Like, the fans take some time to get in the stadium. By the time they got to their seats, it was 9-0. It's ridiculous. Miracle to get the split. Their starting pitching is legit impressive. Molly, who am I thinking? Ryan was excellent on Thursday, even with the lead. Like, pitching with a lead is whatever. He was locked in from the start. Lopez today was good. If he didn't face Cole, he doesn't probably get the loss there. They were impressive. I think also they haven't really gotten a lot from Buxton, and they're winning. And that's going to come as long as he stays healthy, and Correa's getting going right now. Still don't know if they should have traded a Rise, but Pablo Lopez did look good today, and he has looked good so far. But yeah, the Twins, the pitching has impressed me, and it hasn't impressed me in the last 5 or 6 years with them. Finally is right now.
Do you guys agree with them moving Buxton basically to permanent DH?
I don't know what you do with them.
We tried to do it with Stanton, and it still didn't preserve him, so you're still going to get hurt if you're a hurt guy.
I wonder if those injuries are played a toll on him. I remember when he came up, he was like a defensive, he was incredible.
He still is a really good defender, I think.
Yeah, you wonder, though, if those start to show a mark, if you will, on that. So I don't know. I guess whatever you can do to keep him healthy. I mean, if you look at his just baseball reference page and just look at the games played, it's astonishing how few games he has played, how many games he has missed. I think he's played 100 games in a season once. Am I right?
I think once.
It's
I think it was
crazy.
17.
I think that's right. Believe that's right. Yes, 140 in 2017 since then.
That's hard to do.
I think it's
the
I think
second
it's also
highest is
important to point out
92.
Yeah. They say it does get lost when we talk about players getting hurt. It sucks to get hurt, and I feel bad for Byron Buxton. I know Twins fans oh, of course you want him to be out there. But something I've picked up just talking to players, people don't ever take a second to be like, dude, that guy's fucking shoulders busted or his hamstrings blown. It sucks that Stanton can't be walking around right now. He can't go take a dump without having to So that's kind of the light side of it. Here's the real side of it though, the psychological wear and tear of having to live life knowing you are this generational talent and people want to see you play. When you do play, you're such a high impact player. You help your team win so much more. Although there could be a reverse statistic now that someone's going to slam in my face that the Twins are actually better without him. Don't do that to me. That's not the point of this. I'm just trying to make the point that I do want to. It's more than just missing games. If this guy can come back, hopefully it's in some sort of leadership capacity. If it is DH and he can be out there and he can work with the younger guys and be that presence in the clubhouse, because that's really what the Twins miss. When you miss a guy like that, he's such a people rally around him. He's considered one of the better clubhouse names, and people love that guy. He's been to hell and back. It is at the point though where it's just tragic and it's sad.
Hopefully he can put together a healthy season this year. It's funny when he came up, everyone was worried about his bat. Now he's a DH. But he's actually
that's a good point.
He's worked his way into, to his credit, he's worked his way into becoming a pretty good hitter. So Twins are a solid team for sure. That's a very good pick at 5.
Yeah.
Hubs, I think you're 6, right? We're flipping it back to you. 1, 2. Yeah, you're 6
right
here. What do we got
Yep.
here?
I had him at 4. Shocked they're still available here, but the
too.
Brewers.
Thank you.
Got to go with the crew. 3 of 4 in San Diego. Corbin Burns on the board with a gem finally after some weird 2 starts here. He was excellent. It was their only win against the Diamondbacks, but he was really, really good. Overall, you look at their offensive stats as a whole, Rowdy Tellez up there with 5 homers, right? But other than that, not a whole lot jumping out. They keep winning games, though.
They just took one from the Padres.
Yeah, dominant series performance against the
Padres.
Padres.
Just saying. They just beat the Padres in a series, which is pretty tough to do. Padres are really good. I don't know, the Brewers. I mean, they beat the shit out of my Mets last week. They're 11-5 now in a pretty weak Central Division where the Cardinals are kind of scuffling. So maybe they can make up, and kind of pad their lead a little bit. But the Brewers look good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still kind of have my concerns about the long-term sustainability, just because I think they need all their pitchers to be healthy and pitching well at the same time for them to hold this. Because I think the offense has been a great story, but again, there's an experience there with some guys, and ultimately this has not over the last several years graded out to be one of the better offenses in baseball. So I'm kind of waiting for some regression there, but right now, I mean, yeah, they've been killing it. It's a competitive team. They've done a really good job over the last several years as a team that doesn't spend a lot of money of being competitive pretty much every year.
I'm going to throw an early reliever Cy Young Award watch on Devin Williams. He's looked every part of a closer. There was a little hesitancy, I think, when Hader got out of the mix there. Because, you could be a great setup guy and not be a good closer. Devin Williams is a good closer.
He's a
really
inning
that inning he threw in San Diego was unbelievable. The heart of that order, just that changeup falling off, is beautiful.
It's probably the best pitch in baseball. His changeup?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Last year, I think Diaz's slider might have been near the.
What's better?
I'd argue just maybe Emmanuel Clase's cutter.
Kevin Gossman's fork.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I would say Clase's cutter, that Gossman's splitter. Yeah, when it's dancing like that.
We're talking about tier 1 pitches though. Plus 80 grades at pitches that are Hall of Fame pitches.
Yeah.
Just quick thing too about relievers winning Cy Youngs. I do have a nostalgia for there's a stretch there where if you went and you won 15 games and you had 15 saves and you threw 80 innings and your team won the division, you were getting big time Cy Young consideration because it was that's the guy they rely on to get the win. There's a number of like janky Cy Youngs in our history. With starting pitchers, inning totals getting rolled back, it's not going to be today, it's not going to be tomorrow, but it could be like 10, 15 years down the road where like the idea of a reliever winning a Cy Young is more commonplace like it was, like I was saying, when they were handing them out Yankee style. But this time it would be legit.
I don't think like he wins it, but we're talking. I think he's on the watch of being significant vote getter.
I legitimately think, and this is as a Tigers fan, Zach Britton should have won it over Verlander and Porcello in 16. Yeah,
that's fair.
I think 49 for 49 in saves. He went that entire summer without giving up a run.
Yep. Pretty good.
All right, this is the team we're going to get shit on here. I'll go 7. I'm going to take the Mets at 7 here. They're 7 of their last 9. I know they were shit against the Marlins. Klemmer, you can hammer it here, but I just feel like it would be negligent if we had another team in front of them based on the fact they're 5 of 6 this week, 7 of their last 9. But I know you're in the clubhouse. You know the depth chart and stuff. I'm saying from an outside perspective, I'm looking at the Mets and I'm like, okay, yeah, I think they're the last double-digit team left on the board, win team on the board. Like if we're going to I think we get a little cute if we start talking about the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know. It's tough. I mean, look, for me, the front 6, and there's a pretty big gap after that. And maybe if you want to say the Mets are the best of that next tier, I guess that's fine. My issues with the Mets are this. Yes, they're 10-6. That's fantastic. It's on pace to win 100 games. Great. Well, when you look at who they've beaten, though they've played the Marlins, they've gone 5-2 against the Marlins. We swept the A's. Great. So it's 8-2 against the Marlins and A's, which means you're 2-4 against everybody else, which is the Padres and the Brewers. So that concerns me. The back end of that lineup is atrocious. They don't have a real DH. The Vogelback / Tommy Pham doesn't quite work. They need at least now. They just called up Brett Beatty, who's going to be people are going to watch this on Monday. He's going to be in the lineup on Monday. And the Mets have a big series against the Dodgers here. Now Dodgers are scuffling too. They're 8-8. They're not playing great either. So these are two teams that really someone has to kind of break out. We'll see what happens with this 3-game series against the Dodgers. But the Mets, to me, have been very underwhelming despite their record.
I'm kind of with you. Sorry, Carl.
I just wanted to give him credit for beating the Padres in a series, then having to do the cross-country flight to Oakland. Like, they could have lost a game to Oakland. Like, those are games you have to win, so you can't devalue wins on a schedule. And I'm not saying, like, it's a big deal they went out and they cross-country, but, like, that's an early trap if they have been playing like shit. Like, you could have gone out and dropped a game in Oakland. You could have dropped 2 of those games, and the players would be coming out off the field being like, what the fuck? We just flew across from Oakland. Nobody gives a shit about this game. Like, it's not a big deal. So in some weird sense, it's like, it could have been much
Now, I will
worse.
throw a caveat, Carl.
And maybe there's
so one thing is the Mets had a day off between Wednesday and Friday, obviously. The A's were also traveling, and the A's didn't have a day off. And then the A's on that Friday game walked 17 guys, 17 Mets. So, like, the A's basically just gave the game to the Mets. The Mets were like, all right, I guess we'll take it. And then the last 2 games, the Mets won just because the A's suck. Like, the Mets suck too, but the A's sucked more.
Yeah, there was no reason the Mets should have won today's game.
I was so angry. Like, I ended up leaving my house in the 9th inning. I had the game on radio. I went for a walk because I'm like, I can't watch this. So I listened to the 9th and 10th inning on my phone because I was just so annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't get that wild pitch, you don't score.
It was a horrible win. It's a win, but it's a horrible win, and they have to get better if they're going to play the Dodgers tomorrow.
How much of this, though, do you think is just based around the fact that they're not keeping pace with the Braves right now? Like, if this was any other division, do you think you would be as pessimistic?
I don't care. It has nothing to do with division for me for this. Nothing to do. I'm not even really looking at the standings yet. I'm just watching their record and I'm watching them play. And they're playing basically on the same level as the A's right now, or at least the last 2 games. And that's tough to watch. This is 100.
Yeah, outside of Pete and Lindor, like...
Nimmo,
no offense.
I mean, Nimmo's very good. I mean, so you have Nimmo, you have, the top 4 or 5 guys in the lineup are good. McNeil won a batting title last year. That's fine.
Bottom is you need Beatty to cook when
that 6 through 9 in that lineup is awful, and they need 7 through 9. Can is fine, but like there's some major holes in that lineup. They got to get it fixed.
What's the ETA with Verlander?
End of the month. So probably next week we see him.
They could use him. I don't know how much longer Tyler McGill.
I think McGill's. The thing that I'm worried about though is Scherzer was supposed to start today, got pushed to Wednesday. Now he's saying, we have the day off, we can make it work. But anytime guys get things pushed when they're that old, I get nervous. So.
Yeah, I like Senga. I like what I've seen. I know the Oakland start. Like it was a weird. That was the game where they were up a million runs,
there
right?
were 17 walks. So we had to sit in the dugout for like hours.
I'm kind of almost like throwing that start out. From what I've seen from Senga, for the most part, he's been very good.
That is another thing that has me concerned. Is like Scherzer and Verlander are these two unicorns that have done it forever, that have defied the odds at the age that they've done it at. Something about Max, and he looked 5 scoreless his last time out against the Padres. It's not like he's slumming it. Something just doesn't seem Scherzer-like to me. And I think it started at the end of last year. Sometimes you see that guy has a a run in October where he just gets popped and he's never the same. I just remember thinking that playoff start was as flat as I'd ever seen his stuff. And while it is still major league worthy, it's still capable of getting guys out. He's sitting 91, 92 with the heater. And I do think there's some concern there. Not that he's doing anything wrong. He's 39. Father time catches up to everyone.
You want concern for a Mets starting pitcher? Carlos Carrasco. This guy is cooked.
Yeah.
He's done.
Yeah.
He's finished. He starts a game, he's throwing maybe 92, 93. By the 5th inning, he's throwing 88. I mean, you cannot pull out the fork that's in his back right now. He is done. And the good news is, though, Jose Butto pitched today and looked better. But you got to think, when Verlander comes back, what are they going to do with Carrasco? He could even be DFA'd. Like, that's how bad he looks.
Could you put?
If I didn't know who was talking, I would have think that was just.
No, that's me, and I think I'm a pretty fair fan. I don't get too positive or too negative.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no way to be positive about what Carrasco's giving.
Would you put him in the pen?
Either long relief or, honestly, for me, I think I send him. He's a nice man, but I'd send him home to his family.
Yeah, because then you're sending him to the pen. You're asking him to transition.
Well, he's pitched to the pen early in his career, though.
Yeah, well, that was.
Yeah, but
that was when you were like 8 years old, Chris. I think it's time for Carrasco to have a nice, spend time with his wife and kids or whatever. That's nice.
But is there so much like pressure and urgency game to game with the Mets where like they don't really have a leash to figure stuff out, like bring in a couple different relievers, or are you guys like that confident about getting to the playoffs? I guess my broader question would be, it's get to the playoffs and win a World Series as opposed to win the division, right? So you're willing to like go through some lumps if your bullpen sucks out.
Yeah, we had a guy named Jimmy Yacobonis pitch the 9th inning today for us. So
hell yeah,
I'm not too thrilled with the back end of that bullpen either. This is a very good team with some very big holes.
Yeah, though Robertson looks
He looks great.
Yeah.
Last thing, Chris, you're obviously a Verlander expert, and this is Klemmer's first taste with him. Like, my understanding with Verlander is he is, like, able to go to this, like, mental place where he puts these, like, big chips on his shoulder, where, like, a high school coach who said one thing in one time is worth, like, 5 years of him working his ass off. Do you think the Mets fans and that media coverage, do you think that, like, makes him better throughout the season where it's like, oh, well, where's this Verlander guy? Or do you think he's kind of like, is he past that?
Oh, is that for, I thought that was for,
yeah,
I would say to a certain extent he's past that, but I just look. He's always been a guy with an attitude, and I mean that in the best way possible. I think he's exactly what the Mets are going to need, not just in terms of physically, but I think that what he brings, what he can teach guys on that staff, it's something that's perfect for him. I think that one thing about Verlander as well, that's people talk so much about can guys handle New York and they handle the media. I think Verlander was made for New York. And I think in a weird way, though, because it was a big deal in Detroit when I was going down. Like, the fact that he's been in the public eye for a long time, I don't think there's not going to be a Randy Johnson adjustment period to New York where he's beating up cameraman. I think it's a perfect opportunity for him. I think he's set for it. The only question mark to me is he's 40. Like, how long is it going to hold? Like, even last year, as great as he was, I'm like, he's doing the damn thing. There has to be something on the other end there. Eventually, you would think, unless he is just that guy.
Does Kate Upton help his move?
Yes.
Because she's been to New York plenty of times she's a superstar. She's going to be like, hey, this is how this goes. Like, it's going to be okay. Okay, that person's supposed to be outside our house right now taking pictures of us. Like, this happens. I think Kate Upton actually helps.
No, I think so too.
Dude, I think his Hall of Fame speech has a whole thing about, like, when she came into his life and where his career was at. It was like 2013 or 14 or something. Year. But, like, he's on record saying, like, there's a whole extra phase of his career because of her.
He said there was a start against the Pirates in 2014 where I think he gave up 5 runs in the first inning. He came out and said, I thought my career was over. That was a decade ago. He's got 2 Cy Youngs and 2 World Series since then. So, yeah, I mean, like.
I bet Kate Upton said, no, it's not.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
No problem.
Klemmer, you have the burden of picking the eighth team.
I'm going to go with the team that coming into today was second in the National League in ERA, and that's the Chicago Cubs. Now,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I have not been able. I can't say them because people are gonna be like, "You homer, fuck you, stupid."
No, I had them there.
They
look good.
There's a bunch of teams that are in this grouping here. I'm taking the Cubs for kind of the same reason we took the Pirates last week, which is I don't think the Cubs are going to be here in 3 or 4 months necessarily. But hey, you know what? They've looked really good so far. The pitching staff has been fantastic. They're getting some key hits when they need to, and you know what? They just beat the Dodgers this weekend, so you got to give them some credit. So why not go with the Cubs here? They're playing. You know what they're doing? They're playing really smart, like heads-up baseball. They're not making mistakes. They're not beating themselves, and they're doing all the little things right. Can that hold up over 162? Probably not, but it's holding up so far.
Dansby Swanson's been a great addition because he gets other people to play better. And
he's
I don't
embraced
care what
being
anybody
a leader.
says that. Yes.
Yep.
It's one of those things where, like, if you are that's bad podcasting. It's one of those things. Like, I'll say this: I think Dansby Swanson's productivity is a great argument against people who devalue the humanity side of baseball. They're like, doesn't matter, dude. They're just numbers. It doesn't matter where you hit in the lineup. It's like, I can promise you, as someone who watches this team, follows this team religiously, it knows the core and soul of this team. It's different. It does look different, feel different. The shift, I like. They've pitched to contact, and their infield's just solid with Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson. They went out and extended Ian Happ. They're only going to pay about 24 to 25% for their three-man core for the next 4 years, where if you look at the Phillies, they're around 36%. The Angels are like 37%. So you'd say like the core, like three guys that you'd build around in your cost control structure. The Mets are closer to like 31%, but that includes Starling Marte. Like, I don't know if that, like, Pete Alonso's in that core, right? So my point I bring this up is because there's a big free agent in 2024.
I thought that's where you were going. I was going to ask that question next. Yeah.
I think part of the Ohtani pitch has to be, these are the players that are in place, and this is our foundation, but we need you to be the superstar that wins the championships. And I think that's the pitch he wants to hear. He's going to want to go into a deep team where it's not like the complete opposite environment of the Angels. And I'm not saying the Cubs are that team. I'm just trying to put myself in Jed Hoyer's shoes and be like, all right, well, how would you get Ohtani versus all these other teams? And so maybe there's some soft thing there. Like, we have a good culture. We play good defense.
Yeah. Carl's going to be so sad when Ohtani goes to the Mets. It's going to be so sad.
Selling me. He's selling me on it, though.
We're not getting him. We're not getting him, buddy. I'm just
all right, as long as you know. Okay.
I always wanted to date a hot girl, okay? Like, I always wanted to. I'm always interested in the highest level here, okay?
Did Darvish enjoy his time in Chicago?
No, he had a really bad situation when he moved to the suburbs of Chicago and he tried to put a fence up for privacy, and this community just shit on him, Evanston, where Northwestern University is. It was a huge deal. He did not get comfortable at all in Chicago. Then he was really bad for like the first 2 years. There was like a 3-month stretch, I think his second or third. He was unbelievable. One of the best. He was like a full notch below area, like Jake when he was rolling and cooking, but he had a big stretch.
Those hiccups make me think, like, if that ever comes down the road, I think Shohei reaches out and be like, hey, how is it? Oh, you had this problem? Okay, I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't need to.
He likes the fans. He does like the fans. I think he got like our media is not mean, it's annoying. Our media is like, so why didn't you win today? Are you guys not good anymore? Or you guys don't win? Like, we don't know what questions to ask here in Chicago.
In terms of the 2023 Cubs, kind of doing what I theorized they would do in that preview blog I wrote that they've got names in their lineup where if I see them playing on a Friday afternoon, which I believe that this coming Friday they do, and I was very mad they didn't play at home this past weekend because I like betting the 2:20 Friday game. They got some names in there that can trick my brain and be like, all right, the Cubs are going to win today. Like, they got some, and those guys right now are doing the damn thing. They got some Ian Happ, Cody Bellinger, Dansby Swanson, Nico stealing 1 billion bases. Patrick Wisdom slugging. They got some guys in that lineup that, like, all right, there's some depth here. I don't know how great all these guys are, but there's some depth, and these guys can. And then Steele is shoving. Stroman, I think, finally had a bad start, right? But overall, he's been solid. We'll see how long that lasts. But I had them at 9. 8 is totally fair.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And the game they lost to the Dodgers too, they had. I mean, it was down to the final out, and Farmer blew a save there.
Yeah.
No, I've been impressed by them. I think they're a team that has a lot of pieces. I doubt they'll be able to put the puzzle together this year, but yeah, I mean, I would say they're probably better than this, but it's reminiscent of the Cubs. I think it was 2014. Where it was the year before they got really good, where you could see the pieces coming together, and they played really well in the second half, and then that's what led to them getting Lester and the free agents they got in that class. Yeah, I mean, so far it's been a fun team.
Yep. All right, here's how I want to do the 9th team on the list, and obviously, guys, I can't thank you enough for that little nice boost. That'll carry me for literally like 6 weeks here. So, what I'd like to do for the 9th team, obviously you guys are just so prepped and know your shit inside and out. I think it'd be very fair. I'm just going to count down 3, 2, 1, go, and then you guys give your 9th team, and we'll see if there's 2 guys that agree. Okay. I think that's fair. Or if there's 3 great, I think that's a good way to get out here. I mean, my 9 I can take and leave, whatever, but I know you guys have a team that you would go with. So I'll say on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, go. On go, right. Drop your team. Okay? 1, 2, 3, go.
Texas.
Nailed it. 3-0. Texas Rangers confidently 9th best team in baseball.
I said Guardians. Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Wow. I said Guardians, but I'm not even saying this for the sake of the bit. That was my original list before tonight with the Rangers beating the Astros. I'm going to put the Rangers there. Yeah. That was the Guardians lost a Patrick Corbin start today, so I can't technically put them in there.
No.
Yeah.
It's never when you lose to Corbin, it's never good.
Corbin didn't get the win, but he was on the mound and they lost. And Bieber was.
Did they win both of their Corbin starts this week?
Let me see.
I know they.
He could retire and not get paid. He just doesn't care. He's hanging 9 ERAs for the rest of his career.
I think he beat the Angels to start the week. Did he win both of his? Well, he didn't win, but the Nats won both Corbin starts.
Yeah. Corbin's ERA right now is 6.30. Only 2 earned runs in 6 innings today. 4 runs.
How many years do you think you got to go back to when the last time the Nats won 2 Corbin starts in the same week?
Oh, the World Series year, right?
I mean, the 2019, the World Series year, they probably World did. Series. But yeah, that was still 4 years ago. That was 4.
Oh, that was 4. Okay,
yeah.
4.
His first year with the Nats, he was good. It's so weird. It's so weird how contracts work in baseball because, like, by most accounts, Corbin has been a bad contract for the Nationals. Like, he's been pretty much the worst pitcher in baseball for 3 years, and yet. Like, he's going to be remembered fondly because he'll be the guy who pitched 3 scoreless in Game 7 of the World Series. It's like if they lose that game, if Howie Kendrick's home run just goes like a foot to the right and it's a foul ball, everyone's talking about how that's one of the worst contracts in sports.
Yeah, but in terms of Texas, to reel it in, took 2 of 3, assuming they don't give up a 9-run 9th inning here against the Astros. That's very impressive. Did rock Luis Garcia, who just might be cooked without doing his thing. Like, he just might not have it anymore. But did beat Framber tonight. Lost the Hunter Brown game. But overall, like, they're going to be 9-6. Their offense is slugging. You could have gone Guardians. You could have gone O's. O's had a 5-1 week. Their offense is fun. I don't really like their pitching. And you could have gone D-back. D-backs got shoved off the list after last week. And the D-backs are still a first-place team, from my knowledge. And, like, took 2 of 3 against Milwaukee. Could have went there. But I'm going to go recency bias with winning a series in Houston is nice, and that gives me a little, okay, maybe there's a little something here. So I'll give Texas
Pirates too. Just they're falling off the list this week. But to me, it is the Rangers. Josh Jung, by the way, he is just awesome. I don't know. I think the Rangers, they built their pitching staff almost from scratch from last year. They kept Martin Perez, obviously. They kept John Gray, but those other 3 guys are all brand new. I think and they have Bruce Bochy. Yep. I don't know. I think the Rangers are good.
Hey, their lineup their infielders are so big and physical and strong. Mm-hmm. Their outfield, I mean, once that starts to come together, they're really like if they were a football team, they'd have like a great run defense. However, you would kind of partition it out, but you can look at their infield. Their infield's very good, very solid. Calling out Young at third base is great because we're here to bring awareness.
Yeah.
Do you in Nate Lowe?
I will say, you want to talk about football players, football physique? Adolis Garcia. I wouldn't want to trifle with that man in an Oklahoma drill against Adolis Garcia. That's my life. Then my life ends in that moment. So I wouldn't want to mess around with him.
And he's completely out of position in center field. He's a right fielder. Like he's kind of doing that's what I'm talking about. The Rangers, like they're just kind of plugging and playing in the outfield. Great call on Bochy. Guy doesn't lose.
He's got 3 rings. He's going to be a Hall of Fame. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He is. Oh, and he's. I mean, what a coup for the Rangers to get him. Like that is a under the radar thing. I think that happened this winter that enough people aren't paying attention to. And then you look up and oh shit, the Rangers are what? Going to be 9-6 now in first place? Well, no shit. Bruce Bochy is the manager.
You see, but were you guys worried there was going to be a La Russa part 2 with that though? I mean, he's been out for a minute. Older man.
One guy's a drunk, the other guy isn't. Like
La Russa did bring the White Sox to the playoffs. You know, his first year there too.
No, I know, but like that's true, which is ironic. But like he was bizarre or like unanimously accepted to be like kind of a dud from early on. I was worried about that with Boch, but played well.
I still don't know if La Russa knows you can challenge plays. So
yeah, so by virtue of the fact that Bochy is
he's a Hall of Famer, brother.
Yeah, he's
a Hall of Famer, brother.
He's got 3 rings.
Hall of Fame baseball person. Yeah.
You guys probably aren't aware of this. That was his reaction when he got
I thought he said
Arizona on the body cam footage.
I did miss
He's
that.
like, hey, can you get out of the car? He's like, brother, I'm a Hall of Famer.
He's not wrong.
No, he's not. I think an important thing to point out, too, as we conclude the panel for this Monday is that we're not expanding this to double-digit teams. Like, the 1 through 9 is there for a reason because there's just some teams. It is shitty this week that the Diamondbacks are in first place. Zach Gallen's pitched well, and for whatever reason, like, they're just not – they're not
I feel dirty.
Not that story. Yeah, it does feel a little bit dirty.
I picked the Yankees. How did I feel?
You know
I
what
feel disgusting.
Well, it's the correct decision.
And this is the last thing because I know Hubs, you're the one who's got to live with this, dude. Dude, you got the Blue Jays ahead of the Yankees, so like if you want to make one last appeal to save yourself here, like that's I was not thinking about that, but I don't want to think about that.
You watch the clips, I very much disagree with that decision. Also, by the way, big week for the Blue Jays. I believe you might just get proven very wrong very quickly. They're in Houston and then they're in New York.
Oh wow,
that is a big. Yep.
And Saturday, Garrett Cole, Alek Manoah.
Oh, perfect. I will something.
And by the way, the Rays, our number 1 team, starts the week off against the Reds. So the Rays might pound out some more wins right there.
I'm gonna kill Matt for this.
The back end of their schedule must be brutal. Yeah.
They will have some. They play the Yankees, I think, a few times. I think they play the Dodgers. Although I don't know if the Dodgers are ever going to decide to be a baseball team ever again, but they have a hard schedule. Apparently not.
I know we made fun of the White Sox a little bit. Can I also just say how disappointing the Phillies have been this year? I mean, what a complete shit show they've been. I know it's only 2 weeks, but what the fuck?
I think there's legitimate concerns there too.
There should be.
I was because I think we do this a lot in sports. Like they're very similar to me, and they aren't going to be this much of a disaster. Like North Carolina basketball this year, where you play 5 really good games to end the previous season, and everyone's like, "Oh, dude, number 1 team easily." It's like we're forgetting the fact the Phillies still were an 86-win team last year that had a whole lot of flaws, and they're doing it the Dombrowski way, which is they got good starting pitching, they have a lot of mashers in their lineup, but he's tried to buy this bullpen now, and I don't think it's going to work for him.
And they're missing Harper, which is huge.
Who's trying to come back without a rehab assignment, which I feel like I appreciate the effort. I feel like even for a freak like him, could be a really bad idea.
That's insane. That have no spring training. You're just gonna, and also he's also been pretty big against the pitch clock. Yeah. So he's not even going to be adjusted to that, and then he's just going to jump in. Imagine he just leads the league in violation. He's just like refuses to adjust.
Start count 0-2. Yeah, I know. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, just to recap, we have the Rays 1, Braves 2, Blue Jays 3, Yankees 4. I believe
the Twins were. I had Twins 5th.
Twins 5, Brewers 6.
Yes.
Mets 7, Cubs 8, Rangers 9. This is the Power Ranking panel from Barstool Baseball. Subscribe to our YouTube page. There's a great video out now. I went to opening day with Castellani up in Detroit, ripped it up. That video's out. See if I can eat a hot dog in 15 seconds. See Chris running on the ballpark like a little kid. That'll brighten your day. If you're having a bad day, go watch Chris Castellani watch a Tigers game, which is a weird product, but I'm convinced in that programming, Chris, it is. Thank you guys very much. We'll have some Mississippi State stuff up later in this week. We very much appreciate you guys for tuning into this. Subscribe to this stuff. We'll be back next week, and keep your eyes peeled for more programming.